Welcome, welcome everyone. Today we are going to cover a new topic from Devdasis to prostitute, a declining journey of Caucasian culture and women in India. It is based on a research that is yet to publish. So instead of wasting much time, let's directly start our topic. Here is the presentation from Devdasis to prostitute, a declining journey of Caucasian culture and women in India. I, Dr. Deepak, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Mahatma Gandhi Central University. As this picture clearly shows that Devdasis in the past are those artists whose main function was to dance, sing, music, perform, and play other instruments. In the picture one, you can see a woman is dancing her dress. Second picture is two women dancing and another playing instrument. The third one, we can see a woman dancing in temple, which is we can see in the background. The temple is clearly visible, and here it is all clear-cut temple that we can see in this. Here it is called. It's not working. Here we can see the temple. Here, the music instrument, we can see that the lady is playing, and these are the dancing modes that we can see. In that sense, these early Devdasis were the artists and the entertainer, and this is our presentation is how this earlier artist became prostitute during British era and later on till independence and even till today. We will cover several things till 10th century, then emergence of Islam, and then arrival of Europeans in India, then independence, and then ARP Warden too in between. So this is what we have in the pictorial impression. So who are Devdasi? Even in this picture, we can see a girl is dancing with the mode. We can see her heels and the style of clothes. And then these are watchers, and again the instrument in the hand that is played. So who are these Devdasi and for what they are famous? So we can find Devdasis were famous for their gracious and impeccable manner. These lower caste women, so that is most important, that most of these women are not from higher class, but from the lower caste. And even those people mostly are relative and are from the lower caste. So this is such activity in which elite class never participate. And these women suspend their domestic life or motherhood for the benefit of society. In what way it benefit? It is said that these women are servant of God and they will serve the temple or anything throughout their life. That is why they suspend their life and even motherhood. They cannot be the mother. And despite their low ranks, which clearly show their rank was low in society as compared to other women, their main function was entertainment. And this entertainment can be compared R.K. Narayan's guide, in which Rosie the dancer, she danced throughout the novel. And such was the task of these women. And if we go, the courtesan culture across the world were the front runner of the first professional women entertainer. So these women are the first women entertainer in professional way. They were the dancer, singer, they were the instrument player, and do several other works. So their main was just entertainment. They are in entertainment business, which intended for the enjoyment of section of a society. But when we say that enjoyment of a section of society does not mean that whole of society is included. We will see later on who are part of it. But one thing is sure that women, those women from high class or other class are not part of it. Simple way, the 50% of population is totally eliminated. But when we come to male, it doesn't mean that all men can enjoy this segment of society, as only the rich, royal, or courtesan people are allowed. The Sudra from Indian society are not allowed to be part of these entertainment business because their rank was low in the society. The more thing about is that they separate from domesticity and childbearing. But what is more important, that they were high skilled entertainer. So this was main task of Devdasi, and the picture that we see is derived from British Library. So the meaning of quotation is, most of the time we find the problem with this quotation meaning, because more frequently it is termed as a prostitute. But several critics of modern times say distinguish quotation culture, Devdasi culture, or you can say Kothewali culture, that is Twaif culture. But if we go its meaning, then quotation is frequently used along with prostitute, and we can find in Kautilya's Arthashastra. However, this quotation culture is not directly mentioned as a prostitute in Kautilya's Arthashastra, but there are several paragraphs related to prostitute. However, we find that quotation, prostitute, or dasis are used in one paragraph or one tag or one title most of the time in Kautilya's Arthashastra. But who are these quotation? We still do not know, just simply used. But this definition of prostitute of quotation is found in Kama Sutra as follows: a quotation who distinguishes herself in the art and who has good nature, beauty, and good qualities win the title of quotation deluxe and a place in public assembly. That's a Kama Sutra. And this, on the same page of the book, Kama Sutra says, while a prostitute is generally called by the common title of quotation. So this is the word, like most of the critics are saying, these quotation culture, Devdasis are totally different. And they are not prostitute in the earlier era, rather they were entertainer, performer, artist, singer, dancer who can play Bharatanatyam, Kathakali, and other art. But they never declared them as a prostitute. Another critic, Chawla, say that it is disrespect to call them prostitute. We will find it later on, but this is the quotation and the meaning. And the picture, we can say what were their roles, and the picture clearly show that there were not good roles, although it is. But what we find in the classical literature, there is several mention of these quotation culture or women. The first reference we can find in Natya Shastra, that Dasi is that Dasi, because Devdasi is a word that is a mixture of Dev plus Dasis, and Dasis are frequently used in Indian literature. And first of its mention we can find in Rig Veda and several other literature. And their job was of high beautician who do hairstyle, makeup, and apply cosmetic. So this was their business or work. Even in Katha Srit Sagar, like here is Natya Shastra, we can say, and in Katha Srit Sagar that we have here, Katha Srit Sagar, we can also find dasis who are lost in gambling. Such example we also have in Mahabharata when Draupadi is sold after Pandavas lost battle to Kauravas. And again in Raj Tarangani, we have one self-sold slave in chapter 5. Similarly, Marichkatika, that is by Sudraka, a text in which we find the courtship and marriage of a poor Brahmin, Charudatta, with an independent politician, Vasant Sena. We already earlier know what is the meaning of politician through Arthasastra. So perhaps the first direct example of Devdasi is as a dancing girl is found in Kalidasa's Meghdutta, poem number 32 and 35, where Yaksa tells Cloud that the Mahakal temple of Ujjain welcome you with dance offering, and dancing girls were belt tickling with their dance step handiwear. So that is Kalidasa's poem number 32 and 35 we can find here. So what we find that Devdasis are frequently used in Vedas, in classical literature, or even in political works, and several times they are referred as prostitute, but critics are not ready to accept it. The most recent example of this Devdasi tradition we can find in the movie Shyam Singa Roy, that is just 1.5 years ago. We find there several text, but movie is of one of kind, and the movie saw two sides of Devdasis, one outside the temple, second inside the temple, and both roles are different from one another. One role is of goodness, that is goddess, second is as a prostitute. But most of the critics often see their role outside the temple, where they are presented as the slave of God, or the god worshipper of goddess, and so on, or the pious in nature. But they never look at the other side of their story, that is inside the temple, how they are used as prostitutes by priests. So the tale of critics is half, or they are just narrating half lie, because the half is left out of them. If we go by the duties, their main function was, apart from that dancing, singing, instrument playing is something else. Although in case of sexuality, these Devdasis were free to have sexual relationship with any person of choice, patron or protector who was not her husband, nevertheless often maintained a long-term relationship. And we can find this in Srinivasan and Chawlas. Despite their open life, they were more educated. Educated in the sense doesn't mean that they know reading books and so on, but means art. They are skilled in writing, drawing, performing, singing, instrument playing, and so on. And most of the time they collaborate with the higher caste poets, and we can find it in Nanda Gopal or Sonji to interpret literary creations like Mahabhagavatam, that is a work in 14th or 15th century by a poet Bamera Potana in South, that is written in collaboration with Devdasi, and they communicate. These Devdasi are those who communicate meaning through the technique known as Abhinya, and help Potana in composing another poem, Bhogini Dandaka, that is written in praise of the beloved of a king named Sarjana Singama Naidu, and we can find this quotation in Sonji and Bhumi. To add more, famous poets like Naidu had relationship with several Devdasis. So this is what they have with them, having relationship with the Devdasi is common for elite people without responsibility. And even child is born, then they take no responsibility of them. Similarly, direct reference of Devdasis are hard to found in literary text, although we have several, like in Arthasastra, we have one direct example of Devdasi. In Kalidasa's Meghduttam, we have direct reference, but it's more direct reference we can find in temple like Khajuraho and others. And such art in the temples was at pinnacle till 10th century, like Tripathi work 300 to 301 page we can find. And Devdasis were in direct proportion of wealth and prestige of temple. We can find in Chawla page 10. And there is an integral part of large temple in these Devdasis were integral part, including Konark temple, Brideswara temple, Chidambaram temples, and it is also said that in Chola Empire, Talicheri inscription of Tanjavur that belongs to King Raja Raja of 947 to 1014 provides a detail of 400 Devdasis allotted one house per head in north and south part of Talicheri. And quotation we can find it Velurangan, Chawla, and Sankar. And the pictures we have seen the reference of Devdasi. So whoever these women on the part of temples, the picture, nude picture, erotica, these are not common women, but we can simply say these were Devdasis who were part of it, and several times they work as viewed. We can find it in Khajuraho performing different sexual activity, as we can see in Kama Sutra, and these are well engraved on the walls of temple. So how and what type of role of these Devdasis were? And we can see these activities of Devdasi on those temples. We can see the portrait is semi-naked, and here Devdasis are performing sexual activities, and most of the pictures are naked here. And here too, sexual activities are performed. Here is a conjugal between women, and even the pictures that we are having here in different poses mostly are naked and performing sexual activities and so on. And these are well witnessed by the walls of temple, if not in literature. But the problem is that we are looking for direct example in written literature and never try to watch this temple inscription. What about this Devdasi is we can understand about Foucault's truth effect. Truth effect is a type of theory in which we speak a lie so much that it lost its value, or it becomes a truth. Like to hide the truth, we narrate a lie so many times that people start believing it, and such is called truth effect. So Michel Foucault's truth effect has relation with power in society, and it sometimes manipulates the fact to keep stronghold on common people who believes the fact without researching on it. So the thing that we have here, the relation with the power in society is mostly at the hand of upper caste, because they have all sources of education with them, and they manipulate the facts that Devdasi were the entertainer, artist, and so on, and hide the fact that they were prostitute also. Several texts are mentioning them, but they are not ready to accept it, and hence they perform truth effect theory of Foucault's to hide their guilt, and it is through which the power resulted from power it results from power dynamics, and reality is marginalized, or excluded or replaced with the new fact, which are often fake. And we can find the quotation, this is how discourse of truth, or quite simply philosophy, as that discourse which par excellence is concerned with truth, able to fix limit on to the right of the power. So it fixed the limit when we say that Devdasis were singer, dancer, artist, and trainer. Or in this, we are subjected to the production of truth through power. So whoever is powerful will define the truth. So upper caste having all power from that day to till now, so they will decide what would be the truth, and as per them, truth is simply Devdasis were entertainer. And this women as a prostitute, how we come to know that women can be turned as a prostitute, and it can be found where their place is. And it can be distinguished inside home and outside home. So there are different concepts of living outside for men and women. Later things, men outside society is god or animal, but women outside society is either ascetic or prostitute. Thus, purity and chastity can be checked whether she is at home or outside. And the concept of this purity, chastity, virginity, and the one who defiled them are well mentioned in several texts like Narad Smriti, Manu Smriti, Vishnu Purana, Yaganaka Smriti, Vivenka Smriti, Gotama Darshan Sastra, Buddhayana Dharma Sastra, Apastamba Dharma Sastra, Vasistha Samhita, and Nepalese manuscript. So these define them. So once a woman outside home, she is termed prostitute. And in fact, that concept of purity is incomplete in itself. We cannot present someone impure or pure if we do not have impure in that. In such case, prostitute is the perfect example of impure. If one has to define someone pure, they can take example of prostitute or devdasis or so on. And this way we can find how the concept of purity flourished in these texts, Narad Smriti, Manu Smriti, Vishnu Purana, Yagvanaka Smriti, and so on. So impurity needs no one to define, but purity needs impure people to define their gesture. So what we find that what most critics are defining that these were entertainers, but they never present them as slaves, so because not even a single effort is made to define these women as slave, like even various Smriti, Kama Sutra, Earth Shastra mentioned prostitution and dance sexualization with direct and indirect reference. Many scholars term Devdasis as female slave of temples, and in Earth Shastra, only one reference of female Devdasis is dedicated to God. But they are less visible in text, although we can find them in temples. Chapter 6 of Earth Shastra deals with official controlling leisure activity by the chief controller of entertainer, who controls courtesans, brothel, prostitute, and other entertainer. So this word is itself more important because in chapter 6, all these are used in one line or one heading. So it is having entertainer. And this entertainer definition is more like courtesan, prostitute, and brothel. There is a separate heading in this work, and uh, it defined prostitution as a state control-led revenue system in which women are employed by the state for prostitution, and whereas independent prostitute has to pay taxes, and it is defined in Kautilya's Earth Shastra. However, the modern critics are saying that during the British era, these Devdasis or that Kothewali were termed as prostitution, but we find something different in Kautilya's Arthashastra. It is defining that these Devdasis or other, they are employed by the state and those who are not employed by the state, they have to pay taxes. So these again, this slave definition is we rarely compare them with black slaves. So black slaves are slaves not because of their beauty, although the case of beauty is applicable on Devdasis, as we have seen in the first and second slide. But the women of black were not beautiful, but they were good in management. They were those who can manage home, decorate home, take care of field, baby, and caretaker, as well as go to market selling things, and they were good shopkeeper and merchants too. So these qualities are exploited by the white people. And in case of these Devdasis, their art of dancing, singing, artist, painting are exploited. But one thing is common: either it is Devdasis or these white slave or black slaves. They have no escape from their jobs. They once they enter in the profession, they live and die with it. And this even their children have to live and die with the same trauma or slavery syndrome. So the goodness or the good criticism will come out when these slaves or Devdasis will be compared hand to hand or face to face or side by side. Then a good research will come how these slaves are not read in the light they must be, or how Devdasis are not read in the light they must be. So there is a gap, a lacuna, which must be filled. So what about these Nautch girls, and what we find that uh, these are also termed these Nautch girls, and till 10th century, this whole presentation is defining their life till 10th century. Overall, if we look at Devdasis, then at least 4 lectures are needed. First till 10th century, the second lecture will be on Devdasis till the Mughal Empire, or or you can say 1600 or 1700, especially till Aurangzeb, we can say, and thereafter the arrival of British can be included, and then till 1900, the concept of British prostitution, and thereafter the fourth lecture will be on reform in prostitution, how these Devdasis become prostitutes, ARP warden, then cabaret dancer or other dance form in bar and so on. So this must be the fourth. This presentation is totally covering till 10th century and how their roles are. And Devdasi till 10th century are examined in positive light by most of the critics. But another mistake of these critics is that after defining till 100,000th century, there is a gap, a jump of nearly 800 years in their research. From 10,000 years, they directly jump to the close of 1900. And there is a gap where things must be told, and the whole chapter of that Kothewali concept or Twaif culture is totally eliminated. Although they were also the same, even if we look at Devdasis, these Twaif, Kothewali, or these cabaret, they enter in the profession and never left, like the black slaves. So whatever we say, they were prostitute from the earlier era. Instead of criticizing this Devdasi system, slavery, as a slavery, most of the critic blame the decline of temple and absence of patronage for the reason of Devdasis flung into prostitution. But earlier we see it is not right, as the our critic Chawla is writing. From early century, they are in the business of prostitution. Secondly, Chawla and other blamed Christian missionaries and anti-Nautch campaign for pushing them in Devdasi, and most importantly, the role of British Army and British government's way of functioning is also responsible for throwing Devdasi into prostitution. But there are several lies which critics like Chawla hide behind this fact, and we prove it through Michel Foucault's truth effect. And despite having several references of Devdasis as prostitute, critics like Chawla are not ready to accept them, and either says Devdasi was neither a prostitute nor a nun, but a professional artist who did not suppress or deny her feminine skill. But the problem is that Chawla never defines that even the elite class women were part of it, mostly the lower caste women. So in that, even if it is the Devdasis or artist or whatever, they are only limited to a lower section of society. And if higher authorities or the state or institution is exploiting a person on the ground of their sourcelessness, that is also exploitation. So, although that must be part of another lecture from Devdasi to tradition, still we will cover a small segment of it. So, it flourished till 10th century. It flourished due to royal patronage of Chola, Pandava, Pallava. We can find it Desai, Nandi, Rosenthal, Rao, and but after 10th century, with the arrival of Islam, the decline of temple was there, and it was replaced with several dharana and Twaif. And it is perhaps the first transition from the role of Twaif from the role of Devdasi to Twaif, and the difference between Twaif and Devdasi is that Devdasis were recruited or devoted or donated or whatever we can use on the ground of religion, but it was totally absent in case of we say Twaif. But uh, although their nature was different, but their job was same, and there was no alteration in their works, and we can find it in Evans. There are two different religions now, Hindu and Muslim. But if we look at more closely, then Hindu were there, Buddhist were there, Jain were there, and later on we also have Sikhism, and then Parsis were also part of India at that time. So there were several religions at that time. But as Chawla quote, despite having so much religion, the Indian Devdasis were limited to have affair with, and Chawla quotes, alliance with a Muslim or a Christian or a lower caste was forbidden. And this is how Chawla defines everything, that these Devdasis were limited only for the upper caste. And while a Brahmin or member of landed or commercial elite preferred good breeding or wealth, he would bring into the family. So their main target were either Brahmin or commercial elite who can give them money. So it is a hidden branch of prostitution, although Chawla is himself mentioning it, but he is rejecting over and time and again. Even if any offspring is born, it has no legal claim on the property of patron. Chawla is again quoting. It is similar the business of prostitute. If prostitute is born, then the customer not take responsibility of the child. And Chawla is writing, yet he is not ready to accept that these were prostitute also. So even at that time, if we look at this quotation, then even kings, Brahmin, aristocrat people could afford Devdasi, and it was not suitable for Sudra or lower section to afford Devdasi. So even in degradation, we find several things, and most today's time, it lost its value that it enjoyed in past. Although in the last century, or even last century, from the time of Raja Ram Mohan Roy till Mahatma Gandhi or Periyar, they try to uplift their status, like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Iswar Chandra Vidyasagar, Govind Ranade, Karve, Ramaswamy. Other questioned Devdasi system and pleaded for its abolition. However, there are several like Rukmani, Arundale, Annie Besant, and Theosophical Society that say that these are the traditional form and must continue. And but in the late 20th century, in the second half of 20th century, the declining condition of these Devdasis are frequently mentioned in several plays or stories or novel, like mostly from Marathi, and it is in Gazvi's play Devnagri, Balwant Amble's novel Napak, Rajan Gave's novel Chundaka, Uttam Bandhu's Tapu's novel Juhara, Rajan Gao's Bhadra, and Narayan Ativadkar's play Devdasi. So what we find, each degradation followed reformation. Either it is from Devdasis to Twaif, Twaif to prostitute, prostitute to artist, and so on. So according to Neville, that Punjab Reform Society, which planned to drive out Nautch girls permanently, and he quotes Kesav Chandra Sen while describing a prostitute as a derogatory woman carrying hell in her eyes, and Otto Rothenfeld in Women in India writes, dancing remains the most living and developed in the existing art. It sends a scar to a people's soul. It is alive and forceful. All more tragic is it the very tragedy of irony that the dance has been, by curious perversion of reasoning, made the special object of attack by an advanced and reforming society of Indian public. Although a bit positive, they have seen to do so on the score of morality. Note that they allege the song and dancing to be immoral, if such the section, if these could be, but they say the dancer are. Here a bit positive, because here not the art, but the problem in art is mentioned. So this is a journey of Nautch Girls, of from these Devdasis to Twaifs to prostitute to Nautch Girls, but these get their status a bit improved in the second half of 20th century in Indian cinema, when they display their talent of dancing to the large audience, mostly in temples and so on. But the problem is that these were the women from the lower caste. Earlier, these sports were totally banned for the elite class. And if we look at older era, then boxing was reserved for black. And similarly, jazz singing was popularized by black singers, especially during World War II. In case of India, Bharatanatyam, Kathakali, and Kathak were performed by the Dalit girls. With the passage of time, and after World War II or India's independence, a new era begins. When they were included in cinema, then they get name and fame. And the people from elite class came, and they take part on it and they perform. And now most of the gharanas or dancing or singing of Bharatnatyam are reserved by the elite class. Earlier it were with the lower caste. So this is another transition on which no one Christian. We can also find Nautch Girl were this, Devdasi were this, prostitute were that. But what left out, how their talent is stolen by elite class. Earlier Devdasi dance, now the elite class women dance. In fact, caste, power, politics are responsible for this theft. This is what Foucault is saying, power dynamics earlier. So future of Dalit art, is visible with the fact that MS Subbulakshmi, Lata Mangeshkar and Asa Bhosle trace their lineage to Devdasi community, but they trace their lineage only after independence. What about them? There is no hint of them. In that sense, when we say the truth effect, these scholars who are trying to present Devdasi as artists, they are trying to hide the guilt or the wrong that is done to Devdasi, and presenting Devdasi and artist, they are paying respect to Lata Mangeshkar, Bhosle and other, but they are hiding some truth. Similar, most of the gharana reserved for upper caste, and they have monopoly on it, and not the lower caste people included in that. So the lower caste people are exploited twofold. First as Devdasi, then later on as Twaifs, then as that prostitute, and then Nautch Girls, and now their art is even stolen. And now they are not allowed to enter inside, so everything is stolen. By presenting Devdasi as artist, they elite critics are promoting their dancer and singer, and it is possible only when the dark history of Devdasi is erased. So these critics are erasing the history and creating a new and alternative history in which Devdasis are presented a good way. Thus, the singer and dancer of elite class eat the job of Devdasi, and scholars are busy in correcting the history through unfair mean by presenting Devdasi as artist, singer, dancer, performer, entertainer, or so on. From Kautilya Arthashastra till date, Devdasis are part of commercial sex slave workers, while modern Devdasis has replaced them. The concept of Devdasi is highly neglected. Even the scholars who wrote on slavery, like Jyoti Rao Phule, forget to mention this concept in his famous book Gulamgiri. So there are several things which left from this concept of Devdasi, and at least one lecture is not enough for it. At least four is needed. Herein we mostly mention till 10th century, and rest cursory detail is given what was their role during Mughal era, Islamic era, British era, or the modern India. But the three different lecture on them are needed at least. then the whole concept of this Devdasi will come to conclusion, and we can check more clearly what it is. So this is what for today. We will come later on with another part. Till then, take care. Thank you.